Hi there. Welcome back to the Reel Film Chronicles podcast. As always, I'm Nathan.
And I'm Brian.
And in this very special episode, we're going to be taking a look at our bottom 5 movies from 2022.
Yeah, this is to offset or do whatever to our recently recorded top 10 of 2022.
In order to maintain balance in the universe.
Exactly. Well said, for sure. Because, yeah, quite often I always approach the bottom episode here with a little bit of hesitation because I like to stay a little more positive, and I find our episodes are positive. We don't necessarily choose a lot of poor movies in here, but you know what? Here we are. It's kind of fun.
Yeah.
We'll be pretty brief with each episode, and I just want to point out, like, we just finished talking about all these awesome movies of 2022 and how many good ones there were, and I sorted my list on Letterboxd, and I think I rated about 10 movies under like 2 stars and under, which honestly, like, that's 10% of movies, I guess, that I've watched in the past year, but that doesn't seem like a very high number. Like when I'm putting together a bottom 5 list, there's only a few titles that kind of take the cake here. How do you feel about the movie quality of this past year? Are you ready for like a bottom 5? Were there a lot of stinkers to choose from? Was it difficult to put together a list?
Oh, I didn't have the same problems that you did. I was having to cut movies off the list there. But the point of this episode, I think, like you were saying, it's not to dump on these movies. We don't want to like get into that whole Razzie situation where we're making fun of people or belittling people. This is just just to get a sense of like more like our tastes and what movies didn't really connect with us and why. I think it's always an interesting discussion to have both ends of that scale. Why did this movie connect with you? And maybe why did this movie not connect with you? So the point of the episode isn't to say is like, these people are terrible, this actor is terrible, this director is terrible, and they deserve hate. It's like, no. The point is just to say, like, these movies, for the reasons we're going to give, we just didn't connect with them. There may very well be, and I know for sure one movie, Brian, you're going to rake me over the coals for having this on my list. You already know what it is without me even saying it. And it's just like a difference. It's always interesting, I think, to get those differences of opinion and just to see kind of the context of how we look at movies, maybe.
One of the things I'm going to struggle with is actually remembering these movies.
Yeah, that was the hard part.
I did not prepare a lot for this one as much as I did the top 10. I usually like doing a little write-up, but some of these movies I've kind of forgot why they're at this. Because I'm just not going to devote the brain power to remembering these movies because they are kind of bad. In any event, let's start it off here with your bottom 5. How does this work going for the bottom? This is the 5th least worst.
Yeah, the 5th. There are 4 more movies that we think were worse than this. Or that were less favorite.
I'm legitimately confused right now.
So we're at infinity minus 5.
Okay. I think I got my list order. I think I actually did my Letterboxd list in reverse order, so I'll have to remember to count.
So we're gonna do our least favorite movie at the end.
Okay. Perfect. All right. You can start off here with your number 5 least favorite movie of the year.
It's gonna have to be Duel.
Duel. I thought this was going to be your number 1 hated movie of the year.
No, surprisingly, I thought too that it was going to be a little bit lower on the list. I know that we had a whole episode talking about this, so I'm not going to try and relitigate this. It did not connect with me. I hated this movie. You love this movie. I'm really surprised it didn't come in even on your honorable mentions on.
I'm going to be honest with you for a second here. I was going to list it in my honorable mentions, but I didn't want to bring up any bad blood between our difference of opinion here, moving into our top 10 list. I don't care.
Like, it's not news. Like, you like something I didn't like. It's not.
Yeah.
But I am. Every time you mention Duel, I am going to cut off a finger and throw it at your door, just so you know. But yeah, for whatever reason, the writing, the storytelling, the acting, which I know is highly stylized. So it's not a knock against the actors. It's stylized, just like the acting in a Tarantino movie or an M. Night Shyamalan movie is very, very stylized. But it just did not connect with me at all. The theme didn't really connect with me that much. Maybe because The overarching narrative didn't work for me. The world building didn't work for me. None of it worked for me. But again, everyone has their own flavor, and I know that Brian, the fact that this is on my bottom 5 list calls into question my mental capacity, and the fact that he loved this so much calls into question his mental capacity for me. So it's
all I can do to sleep well at night is knowing that I am on the
right
other
side
side of the majority. I think this movie has like a 3 or 3.5 like average rating on the site. I've rated a bit higher, I think, because
I'm in the minority in this one.
Yeah, I rated a bit higher, I think, because of that initial theater experience, that I was just kind of like jazzed about the movie in general. But yeah, no, it's a divisive movie between us, and I'm not sure, like I was worried about the future of our podcast and even our friendship after this discussion. I like editing that podcast and put it out there. Is like, I think for the first 10 or 15 minutes when you're really blasting the film, I was just like, is this guy trolling me? Like, is this going to be a one long joke? And then I realize you're serious and be like, oh man, I can't believe that.
Duel, I think it's pretty clear it did not connect with me. So that's my number 5. How about you, Brian? What was your 5th least favorite movie?
5th least favorite movie is Spiderhead, which we did have an episode about this, and we did tear it apart, I think justly. There's a lot of like nonsensical stuff in here. This is an easy movie to nitpick, but what really gets me is just, this is bad sci-fi, and it might be based on like a good short story or something, but I mean, we talked about good sci-fi with all this social commentary that it can really work well. Spiderhead, this is how possibly good sci-fi, because it has a good concept. Execution is not so good. The characters are not that interesting. The story's motivation's not very good. There's a lot of weird stuff going on in the movie. It just didn't do it for me. And I think for something that had quite a bit of hype, because the trailer, is showing the premise of the movie. And that's what I wanted to say. Sci-fi with a great premise can be really awesome, no matter how good or bad it is. This is just, it fumbles that premise and just tosses the whole thing in the trash. And it's also kind of fitting that this is a Joseph Kosinski movie. And we just talked about what a great director he is with Top Gun, who's in both of our top 10 lists of 2022. So it seems rather fitting to have both ends of the spectrum for him to show up here. This is his worst movie.
Yeah, just showing like everyone has an off day. I think we both agreed that Spiderhead should be sentenced to a couple of rounds of Darkenflox.
Yeah. All right, what's your number 4, your 4th most hated movie?
Most hated, least favorite, we'll say.
Not most hated, least favorite. Okay.
No, but for me, Halloween Ends, I would put it number 4.
Oh, yeah.
I forgot that came out in 2022. And I know I'm at odds with John Carpenter, who actually, I think he came out saying he really enjoyed how this movie kind of ended off that this yet another timeline in the Halloween franchise.
There were a lot of questionable things happen in Halloween.
I was just like, the whole movie had, not the whole movie, but the whole new Halloween trilogy there by, was it David Gordon Green? It had real like Star Wars sequel vibes, where it felt like there was no planning going on between each of the individual movies. Yeah. It felt so disconnected. Like Halloween Kills, it felt like none of that mattered or in Halloween Ends at all. And we went with this Corey kid who, before people say, is like, I understand thematically and metaphorically what the movie was trying to say with Corey, but I wasn't picking up what they were putting down. The whole movie, like for a Halloween movie, I don't know what to say. It was so, I don't even know what it was. It did not feel like a Halloween movie.
It was really disappointing. Yeah, love or hate the previous 2 Gordon Green Halloween films, at least they had some consistency. And this one just seemed to go, like, I think it tried to do too much for being the final entry. Like it tried to, I don't want to do spoilers and stuff, but it's like, I think it was trying to replace Michael Myers as the villain, but also not do that.
It was trying to have its cake and eat it too. Really, Corey should have been a character from in the first sequel movie, legacy sequel. Speaking of legacy sequels, that first Halloween movie that came out was it 2018, I think. I really liked that one.
Yeah.
It was really good. And then Halloween Kills, I was lukewarm on. There were some interesting ideas. And then Halloween Ends, they lost me completely. I was just, it was one of those movies, like I was having a really hard time finishing that. And like, it's very rare where I walk away from a movie and Halloween Ends was like, you're telling me like a sequel to Halloween, one of the greatest movies, like from one of the greatest directors that basically invented the modern slasher genre. And this is how you want to end out that story. I'm just like, man, no, bro, no. What's your number 4, Brian?
Goodness. Number 4, just like the top 10, I have to get a superhero movie in here.
Do it.
And there's plenty from this year to choose from. But the worst one, I think everyone knows, it's got to be Morbius.
It's Morbin time.
It's more like, I can't even begin to describe, like, I missed this movie in theaters and I'd lived through all the memes. I even ignored it when it went back to theaters after they thought maybe we can.
Oh, Sony.
Right? Like, it's just such a bad move. And what a bad movie. Like, it's just, and again, it seemed like it had some good potential. Like, you see some of the basics here, like Morbius, like the guy, he creates like artificial blood, and you're like, this should be a whole interesting thing, but it's like, no, they just advance time. They do all this weird stuff. There's a lot of weird choices. I was tuning out for most of the movie. I don't even remember what happened for most of it, to be honest with you. It was just difficult to hold my attention. And this is the problem. It's like these superhero movies, they can go from being really awesome to just being absolutely trash. And like Sony, I've given them kudos, like with the Venom movies, for at least throwing something a little bit different out there. And Venom, I mean, you have Jared Leto here. You've got Tom Hardy in Venom. Like, there's talented actors in these movies, and sometimes they can pull it together. Jared Leto, I don't think he got the memo of what this movie was going to be or like how it was going to turn out, where it's just like maybe Matt Smith was like really living it up. Like, there's that scene where Matt Smith is like dancing to this thing. He's just got like his powers, and it's like, it is so ridiculous, but it's so funny.
That was the best part of the movie, that Matt Smith dance.
I was just about to say, it was literally the most memorable part of the movie for me. And I'm just like, man, that was hilariously bad. And am I going to watch this again? Probably not. Like, there's no urge to see this. And of course, the stinger at the end that tries to pull together like a few of the villains to Spider-Man and like hint at the Sinister Six just completely feels so forced and gross, honestly.
Yeah. I keep thinking this line from Glass Onion: if I ever meet Jared Leto, I'm going to kick his kombucha brewing ass. But yeah, I didn't think it was as bad as you did, but I'm also not going to defend it because, yeah, there were so many questionable decisions. And the frustrating thing was like, oh, it had a couple elements like, oh, this could have been really cool, really fun movie about this anti-hero, because everyone's got to be anti-hero now. They can't be villains. The cherry on top of that Sunday was that terrible after credits scene. My God. My God. What were you thinking? Like, who thought that was a good idea? Like, I hope somebody lost their job. I hope some executive lost their job. They had to get a golden parachute. Fire somebody with a golden parachute.
Yeah. All right. What's your number 3 on this list?
Number 3. This easily could have been bumped to the number 1, but Jurassic World Dominion. What? What a... Oh my goodness. It was just terrible. Like all these Jurassic World movies, the first one was like, okay, it was a fun enough ride. But now it's just like, I don't even know what they're trying to say anymore with these movies. None of it makes, like, from a thematic point, doesn't make any sense. It doesn't jive. But like, you look at the first Jurassic Park and it was like, oh, there are forces of nature that we just can't control. And you go to this one, it's like, oh, we need to live in harmony with these giant predators who are going to disrupt our entire ecosystem. What was that scene at the end with the dinosaur swimming with the humpback whale? Like, somebody must have watched Star Trek 4 just before making this, I guess. The action doesn't make sense. I think you and I talked about this, and this is a personal preference, but like none of the characters felt like they were actually in the movie. It felt like they just walked out of their trailer 5 minutes before. Like all their clothes were perfectly pressed. They had like a little smudge of dirt or something. You go back to like the kids and like Dr. Grant at the end of the first movie. They're just covered in dirt and blood and clothes ripped and limping around and bandages on their hands from the electric fence. And like these guys look like they just came out of the amusement park ride, Jurassic World, at Universal Studios or something, right?
How does it rank against the other two Jurassic World movies for you?
They steadily went down in quality.
So this is basically like 1, 2, 3, like
exactly. In order. Yeah. They steadily got worse and worse. Like give me Jurassic Park 3 over any of these movies any day. I will take that talking raptor in Dr. Alan Grant's dream any day of the week over any of the nonsense in these new movies. You take it in a different direction, do whatever you want, whatever, but at least have some kind of internal consistency. It's a movie about dinosaurs. Why are we focusing on a bunch of locusts? Like, what is that even? What? And like doubling down.
Weren't they like prehistoric locusts?
Yeah, they were, but still the most nitpicked logical detail from the second movie about how stupid the raptor targeting system was. You put a laser on somebody and you get the raptor to chase them. It's like, if you have a laser sight on somebody, shoot them. You have line of sight, shoot them. They doubled down in this movie almost as like a giant middle finger to audiences. Like, oh, you thought that was stupid? Well, here's how awesome it is. Like, it was still stupid the further along it went. Yeah, I think as a society, one of our biggest mistakes was pushing this thing to like, what, they make it like $1 billion, didn't it? And I blame all of our listeners for that.
Can I admit something to you right now? I bought this movie on 4K UHD recently.
Oh.
And I think it was like, this is the collector's curse that I think you and I can relate to, is that sometimes you got to buy bad movies to complete like a mini collection. And I had all the 5 previous ones because I bought someone's collection. It had all 5 movies on 4K and be like, well, I really don't want to buy this movie, but I have to complete that 6-pack of movies. So I bought it. I don't think I hated it or disliked it as much as you did, because I at the very least, I just got a kick out of seeing all like the original, like Sam Neill and Laura Dern come back, and there's general tomfoolery going on. But yeah, this movie was pretty poor. It's like,
I am going to buy this movie too after all that, because of I have the other one, so I had to finish the collection. So I'm waiting for this. And I think, what was the other one? I think I picked up Suicide Squad finally. The first one, not the second one, which was much better. But I was waiting for it to go down on like sale for $5 or something. I'm waiting for this one to go down on sale, because I have to complete the collection. So yeah, I'm gonna have to spend real money on this movie.
Right. This is one of our viewers' comments from our very first episode, is that we kind of blasted into Wonder Woman 84 quite a bit. And at that time, we were kind of focusing on collecting. It's like, are you going to buy this movie? Yes, we're both going to buy this movie. It was just like, are you guys crazy?
A little bit, yes.
A little bit, without a doubt. You got to be.
What's your number 3, Brian?
Number 3 for me is a movie called Gold. And this movie, there's a lot of movies called Gold.
What? Is this the one with Zac Efron?
It is, yes.
Get off this podcast right now. Now we're done. Podcast is dissolved.
Really? Really? Did you see this movie?
Oh yeah. I don't love it that much, obviously. I had middle of the pack. I had like 2.5 or 3 stars or something.
Oh man, 3 stars.
I thought it was a really good turn by like Zac Efron. It was pretty good performance.
This is maybe one of the most boring movies I'd ever seen in my life.
It's an in-depth character study.
I got nothing out of it at all. It felt so generic. It felt so plain. It just felt like, I don't know. I don't know how to describe it, but I did want to give a little bit of history on why this movie is in here. Is that I inherited my love for movies with my parents, and I've always watched movies with my parents. I'm going to watch as many movies as I can. And when I visit them, we always watch movies. Sometimes it's difficult to find a movie online to watch that we're all going to agree on. So we put on Gold. And after about, I want to say 10 or 15 minutes, my mom turns to me and my dad, pauses the movie. It's just like, do you think this movie is going to get any better? And both of us were, well, I think my dad was falling asleep by now anyways, but I'm just like, probably not. Like I could tell what type of movie this is going to be. And so we turn it off. And I wanted to, she's done this many times for a variety of different reasons. And I felt like I needed, knowing that this bottom 5 list is going to come in, is that I needed a movie like this to go back to and just verify, did it get any better or not? And I can tell you, Mom, it did not get any better. I watched the last, hour and a half of this movie. I was just bored out of my mind the entire time. I didn't feel that like anything interesting really happened. I wasn't invested in the kind of like this post-apocalyptic world like I wanted to be. Like I think I just wanted a little more out of it.
It was lacking in some world building, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like, because so little was happening, it just felt very just
no, I think it was like, for me, it was like a 3-star film. So I'm not going to sit here and defend it and say it was like one of the best of 2022. But I will say that for anybody doubting Zac Efron's acting abilities, I think this is one of the movies where he's starting to get outside his comfort zone, is like, oh, the young hot guy, and really doing something different. So I'm hoping this leads to bigger and better things for Zac Efron. A little bit out of his comfort zone. It's interesting to see. I never thought I'd be like interested in Zac Efron as an actor, more as just like beyond those weird, confusing dreams I had. But
that is a valid point. And you mentioned that earlier. It's like the actors in here are not necessarily doing a bad job. Like movies are a massive group effort. Yeah, sometimes 1 or 2 people can derail a thing, or you just hate something so much in a movie that it derails you. Zac Efron did not offend me in this movie. Like the acting was absolutely fine. I just thought the general story was pretty blah. And now I'll grant the movie was only 97 minutes long, so I did not have to stay bored for very long before moving on to the next film. So with that, what are we at here? Number two?
Yeah, which is a suitable number for the list. I'm sorry, but number 2 for me was Moonfall.
Oh.
All due respect to Roland Emmerich, this was no Independence Day.
That's for sure.
This wasn't even Day After Tomorrow. Like, what a fall from grace. I don't know. I don't want to say that. Roland Emmerich still. He's a disaster. He's in the disaster genre, but like overall, the movie, again, a lot of nonsensical stuff, which I can get behind sometimes. But then to have, I think one of the things that really rubbed me the wrong way about this movie, besides like how nobody understands how gravity works apparently in the scriptwriter's room, but just like having the crazy conspiracy theorist be right about everything. Probably not the message that we needed.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
In this day and age of so many sources of disinformation, and to have like, oh, the hollow moon theory was correct. And like, and this guy had a bunch of other theories. Like something about that just really rubbed me the wrong way. It was not that was the thing that put it over the edge. Launching an entire rocket ship with 2 people, like the whole that rocket launch, the crazy, everything just goes crazy. Nothing really makes a whole lot of sense. People's motivations don't make sense. Patrick Wilson is like, oh, we need you to help save the world. It's like, well, I got to save my kid. It's like, well, if your world is destroyed, your kid is like, doesn't make any sense. Your logic or reason for not wanting to do this. Nothing made any sense. It was great to see Patrick Wilson and Halle Berry out there kicking butt again. That's always good to see.
Yeah.
And also Michael Pena showing up again, who can be Michael Pena, who can do comic relief. He can do action. This guy can do anything. This guy needs to be in more stuff. I know other people have said this, but like he needs to do like his character in the Ant-Man. He needs to just do movie reviews.
Yeah.
Reviews of movies as that character. Yeah. Doing the little tie-ups at the end. But Moonfall was just,
oh man.
It was just bad. It was embarrassing. I felt it was one of those things where you feel embarrassed for somebody else. It's like, I felt embarrassed for people having to be in this movie afterwards. And they were so clearly setting up a sequel that is in this timeline probably going to happen because we deserve it. Yeah.
And the movie probably made enough money to justify a sequel. And I got to say, like, this movie, I don't remember where I landed. I think it was maybe 2 stars, which is, yeah, I mean, it's poor, but I think I could enjoy it on some visceral level, at least, like with the special effects, because Emmerich knows how to direct some crazy on-screen action. And yeah, the whole gravity-defying stuff going on, you're like, yeah, this looks silly, but I mean, it's engaging on some level, and I think that's why I didn't put it like in this bottom 5 list. But as far as disaster movies go, you could do so much better. Like, don't waste your time on Moonfall.
Yeah, I would take 2012 over this any day of the week.
Yeah, 2012,
which had great special effects, by the way. I think Corridor Crew did a great breakdown of like how impressive those effects were in 2012, but like narratively not great. But I would take Day After Tomorrow, 2012, any day of the week over Moonfall. Moonfall was just, Anyway, what's your number 2, Brian? I can't even.
Number 2 is a movie called Dark Glasses, directed by Dario Argento.
Oh, really?
Who I started discovering his films and a lot of the Italian horror giallo films over the past like half decade or so. And I didn't even realize that Dario was still alive making movies.
I was going to say, I didn't want to seem insensitive.
I know.
But
I
didn't think so either.
And I'm just like, oh, I wonder what this is going to be. But the story behind this movie is that I subscribe to Shudder, and previous in the week, I got an email and they're like, hey, we're having a surprise world premiere of a movie this Saturday night. My weekend was clear. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, 10 o'clock at night, this movie is going to premiere. I'm going to be in on this. And I'm thinking like Night of the Coconut, all this other stuff where it's just like, oh, I'm going to be like at the forefront of this. I'm going to be part of this little Shudder community.
You're on the cutting edge.
Right? It's like, I think I hyped it up and people online were like talking, whoa, what could it be? Could it be this? Could it be that? And then Dark Glasses comes on. My attention is fully in there. I'm like, I got my popcorn. I'm so into it. And I was like, this movie was just not good. And I am definitely in the minority here. I think it has an average rating of about 2.8, and I gave it 1 star. So I'm off base here. And maybe I was just kind of in a sour mood, and it was the expectation of something like really interesting. But it's like, to be fair, watching those old giallo movies, they can be difficult to watch, right? I mean, they have a very certain style. They have a certain formula that they follow. And this one was a little bit of the same thing. But I mean, those movies are from the 60s and 70s. This is 2022. And I just didn't feel like it could compete against all these other horror movies that were going on that I've seen so far. Like, there's so many good things coming out here. So I don't know what happened with this movie. Maybe it was just me that didn't like it. Obviously, I didn't like it. But to be fair, I mean, I'll mention the runtime again. This one was even shorter than the previous one. It's 86 minutes long.
Oh, yeah, that's a breeze.
The terror of sitting through this movie did not last very long. But I think it was just like, oh, I was really hyped to be part of, I say part of, like, I'm just watching this stuff on my couch, but a world premiere. It was kind of exciting. And then it was this, and I was like, not going to catch me again doing that.
Like being the world premiere of Avatar: The Last Airbender.
That's right.
Ouch.
Oh my goodness. All right. What is your number 1 least favorite film of 2022?
I think this one's cheating a bit because it was, I don't know, maybe it's not cheating. It was on Netflix, but this felt like a direct-to-DVD, direct-to-video, or sci-fi movie, or maybe even like asylum movie. It was a little thing called Interceptor. It was on Netflix.
Okay.
Starring Elsa Pataki. She was actually in the Fast and Furious movies. She was Dom's baby mama after Michelle Rodriguez's character Letty got killed and then came back.
She's also in the Thor movies.
Is she in the Thor movies? No.
She's in Dark World and Love and Thunder.
Oh, really?
She was also in Snakes on a Plane.
Oh, no. Fast and Furious 5 and 6 for sure. She came in when Dwayne Johnson came in. She was when he was a CIA agent down in wherever it was, South America. She was like the local police liaison. But yeah, she's great. I think she's got an actual action background because she's ripped, man. Like, she is in incredible shape. And I think I believe this was produced by Chris Hemsworth. if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, really?
After his success with, I believe, what was it, Extraction?
Oh, yes.
Which is getting a sequel as well. Which Extraction for me was a pretty mediocre film, but the action actually in Extraction, besides rhyming, was actually pretty good. It felt like people were actually getting hit. This one did not feel that way. It felt cartoony in the worst possible way, from the motivations to the actual action itself. It felt like a low budget movie on the Sci-Fi Channel. Is the Sci-Fi Channel still around? I don't even know. For people to get that feeling, it was like the film felt like it was like a TV quality film as opposed, like whatever that is. It felt like you're watching a TV show. It was clearly a movie or trying to be a movie. The whole thing was patently ridiculous. I'm glad that Elsa is getting showcased and she's getting opportunities to headline movies for a North American audience. But unfortunately, this was, it was so bad. But again, it feels almost like cheating because it feels like I'm watching a sci-fi movie or an asylum movie. Didn't feel like an actual like movie.
Yeah, that's too bad. The poster looks pretty engaging. You got a couple missiles coming at her. She's hanging off some platform of some sort. The director looks like this is the only thing he's ever done. Matthew Riley. It just says his bio, he's an Australian action thriller writer, but the only movie he's written is Interceptor. Directed it, so maybe he's prolific. It's something else. Yeah,
maybe more power to him. Maybe this is just like his testing ground, and next one will be better. Yeah, I was watching this, and I was like, it was one of those movies where like I had to watch it to the end to see if like this can't be as bad as I think it is, right? Like there's got to be some redeeming quality. Something has to turn it around at the end. And that sadly did not happen. I was engaged with this movie for all the wrong reasons. What's the term they use now? Is it hate watch, I think?
Hate watching.
I was feeling something maybe of that watching the second half of this. After the first half, I was like, no. This can't, you can't do this. This can't be real. And it most certainly was. What's your number one, Brian? Take us away here.
Yeah, I feel like I'm going to end on a little bit of a whimper because I don't really remember this movie very well. It's called The Cellar, directed by Brendan Muldowney and starring Elisha Cuthbert.
What?
Who?
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think she's done too many movies recently, but yeah, I mean, she's been a Canadian star for quite a long time.
Yeah, there,
Yeah, exactly. Everything about this movie just bored me. I really don't have much else to say about it. I remember the ending kind of being pretty disappointing, and it was like nothing innovative, nothing interesting or unique happened throughout the movie. It's just very kind of like paint by numbers of this horror film. The story itself, like her daughter disappears into the cellar of a new house that they buy in the country. And then, of course, you discover that there's ancient evils living in the cellar. And it's like the cellar is basically this doorway to, a hell type landscape.
As all cellars are.
Yeah. And it's like, I think I could be totally mistaken here, but I think it kind of has that like last bit where like it parallels Poltergeist and like trying to get the daughter out of this other dimension. It's like you tied a rope around you, you're going down the cellar stairs and you're going to go into this world and like try and pull her out. But it was just, this movie did not land anywhere for me. Nothing really very redeeming about it. And I don't really have much else to say about it. It has a 2.4 rating on Letterboxd. I gave it 1 star. I don't know. It was just disappointing. And I watch a lot of horror movies throughout the year. And this is, I watch a lot of bad ones too, I should say. And it's like this one was probably the worst of the batch for sure. But that's kind of my list right there.
Oh, that's too bad. I always like to see Elisha Cuthbert succeed ever since, was it Popular Mechanics for Kids, I think? And then...
That's right.
I think it's saying here also, she was on the Are You Afraid of the Dark? I don't remember her in that, though.
Are there any honorable mentions you want to throw out there?
Oh, yeah, ones that didn't quite make the list. Spiderhead was one that didn't quite make the list. It was,
Yeah.
but it was pretty mediocre. Deep Water, which was
yes.
okay, I thought people were being really hard on this. It was Ben Affleck and Ana de Armas. People were not being too hard on this movie. They were, for once, the critical reception, I believe, was pretty on the nose. They were pretty correct. It was pretty rough, especially when I was waiting for the ending. I was like, okay, there's going to be some really smart ending that ties everything together. And no, it was a really stupid ending for a really stupid movie. That seems kind of reductive. It was an ineffective thriller with nonsensical plot beats. It was an interesting, I guess, at the end, showing like, oh, these two kind of psychopaths or sociopaths and how they live together. But if you want a good psychopath movie and with Ben Affleck, you go watch Gone Girl to see how two psychopaths deal with each other in a relationship. Another one you're going to just disagree with me on heavily, Kimmy, I thought was just, it was like the equivalent of like a high school kid writing poetry and trying to be deep. It sounds like the movie, it sounds like it's really touching on deep themes, but really it's like, it's not saying anything at all of any substance for me anyway. I know you felt differently. I think you really enjoyed this movie.
I would say it's probably mediocre, but it was an engaging kind of like thriller of sorts. And this Steven Soderbergh film, which he probably filmed it on like an old obsolete iPhone or something for the whole duration of the film. Like there was some like weird gimmick like that going on with the movie, but
again, I love that this was kind of the year of Zoe Kravitz. She was in this. She was in the Batman. It's nice to see her. She's a great talent, and to see her getting more work and more high profile stuff. Kimmy was one of those ones, just didn't connect with me. I understood the themes and what it was trying to say. I just think it failed miserably at trying to say anything meaningful about the topics it was discussing. Because usually Steven Soderbergh, I'm usually on board for his movies. I really like his movies normally, and I was really surprised to see that he directed this.
Yeah. Any others you got there before I list some?
No, you go ahead. You have greater depth of experience from 2022. It sounds like
of bad movies. Maybe I don't know.
Of movies overall, but
there was more to choose from for sure, and one of them was another horror film called Long Night. Just kind of a standard thing. This couple, I think it's like an Airbnb, like this country house. They get there, things are feeling a bit off, and of course, there's like this cult of folks who wear like skulls of like animals and whatnot, who are just kind of sort of like standing outside their home, and it's just like people standing outside this house, people inside being afraid, standard cult stuff going on, pretty uneventful.
I thought it was just another snake cult.
Right. I listed The Gray Man as 2 stars. It's down there as well.
Oh, yeah.
It was kind of between The Gray Man and Spiderhead as like being in the top or the bottom 5, I guess. And Spiderhead definitely won out. Blacklight is a Liam Neeson film, and I think perfectly embodies like where this guy's career has gone and what he's willing to do, but I still got some enjoyment out of watching it.
Guy's doing movies he loves.
Yeah, and I think these people, like the filmmakers, know that they're going to hire Liam Neeson, and they just make a movie that just perfectly suits his role. Like he's, I think, a grandfather. He's a retired agent, government agent who's like super good at everything he does. And at least this one had like a decent hook of, I think he was trying to help other agents who had mental breakdowns of the job, and the government kind of wants to kill those agents because they know a little too much, but he's like trying to rehabilitate them a little bit. So it becomes a bit of a chase movie, and Liam Neeson also gets his granddaughter involved, and she's a danger, and it's just kind of poor.
It's like a prequel to The Gray Man.
Yeah, right. But I mean, as far as there's a couple other movies I rate 2 stars, like Firestarter. I'm not gonna lambast that movie too much. Like it had a John Carpenter score that was totally awesome.
Oh, sweet.
But the rest of the movie was kind of mediocre. Anyways, that's kind of where I'm at with some honorable mentions there.
Nice.
What a year of 2022. And I can't wait to sit through some more garbage for 2023. But honestly, like this year, I did not have too many movies in the bottom tier. I wasn't rating movies too low, so I kind of thought maybe Ambulance might be on your bottom 5 list.
Oh yeah, Ambulance is an honorable mention. It could have been on there easily.
Number 6 or something. Yeah.
Yeah, Ambulance was. I thought even in terms of Michael Bay films, it was just like, by God, like yeah, sure, he had some drones and he did some interesting, I'll say, shots. But like watching the movie, like the action shots made, like at least in his other action movies, like it made sense. You saw a car driving towards a giant robot in one scene, and then the next scene, the giant robot hit the car. This one, there was one scene in particular that really stood out as just completely stupid. The ambulance was being chased by cop cars, and then the cop cars, it was like a giant open area. It looked like an empty, like really how the chase is in like the almost like drainage ditches, but the giant concrete, because they're flat and they're long, and you can drive multiple vehicles through there. The cop cars were like just randomly driving towards obstacles that they could have easily avoided and flipping over for no reason. Like the action there was no logical sense to the action when you follow it through. It's just like, okay, Michael Bay is just completely gone off the deep end. He's a kid playing with toys and just like blowing things up with at least before like Mayhem or the Bayhem had like, it was at least purposeful or directed, and this one just felt like, I don't know, it was pretty bad. Yeah, it should be on the list. I'll put it as like 4.5 maybe. Number 4.5. I'll squeeze it in there. It deserves to be in there.
Yeah, might as well. Fantastic. That was a lot of fun to put together there.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, see everyone again next year.